What is good? What is good? Slightly fragrant. What's good? Chelsea, what's going on? How we doing? How we doing? Gonna wait just a couple of minutes for everyone to pop in. Slightly fragrant. Thank you for inviting your followers. Twitchy, RMFAO, what up? Stoked for this scope. Let's get into some CBD. Yeah. A lot of people have heard of CBD now. I want to take it past that basic information of CBD, and we're going to get pretty deep into CBD and how it helps. Twitchy, this will definitely be one up your alley. Going to get into why it helps with certain things like seizures and all that. But I'm at I'm at Big Bear Cannabis. I serve the cannabis people, a cannabis community, and all those people out there that are starving for marijuana news and information. I hope to be your insider source for all things marijuana news. So yeah, I appreciate you guys sharing. Let's make sure you're swiping and sharing. Make sure you're tapping the screen. I love you guys for it. I want to say hello to everyone and thank you guys for joining. Evan206, Twitchy Blaze, Sassy McTits, loved your scope. That was a lot of fun. Sassy, thank you for joining. But Zinga, thank you for joining. Mikey Woo Woo, thank you everyone. T-Bone, thank you for inviting you guys. I really appreciate it. Nicole, Glass Dose, what's good everyone? Okay, let's jump into this here. So we're going to talk about really four subjects: the single molecule versus whole plant CBD, how CBD actually works within your body, potential treatments, and then the misconceptions around CBD. So if I don't answer your questions, guys, I'm going to try to do a quick Q&A at the end. This is let's get into this here. So how does cannabis, how does CBD work in your body? So most people don't know this, and I just learned this recently. But if you can see here, these are two different molecules, even though they look very similar. This is THC over here, and this is CBD over here. Notice they're pretty much identical. The only difference is this hydrogen carbon and this oxygen. They just connect differently here. So very, very similar. So when cannabinoids, you have CB1 and CB2 receptors in your body. CB1 receptors are in your brain and your spine. CB2 receptors are mostly through your immune system. A lot of them are in your skin. If you put on topicals, your CB2 receptors are what are going to be interacting with that THC and that cannabis. So when cannabinoids interact with CB receptors, this works like a lock and key system, right? So when they go into the cannabinoid receptors, it works like a lock and key. You guys have heard, but that's going to be super important later on. So if you guys want to take out some notes, you might want to take out some notes here. CBD does not bind to those CB receptors like THC does. THC binds to what they call orthosteric receptor sites, right? So when it goes to the CB1 or CB2 receptors, it locks into the orthosteric, right? When CBD, that's what THC does. When CBD interacts with those CB receptors, they actually interact with also steric CB receptors, okay? So THC and CBD work together. They're like a power couple, right? CBD is actually a negative modulator of CB receptors, meaning that CBD alters your cognition and actually improves mood. So when people say that it's non-psychoactive, that's not really the way to look at it, right? It might not cause you to get high. You may not feel euphoric, but to say that it's non-psychoactive wouldn't quite be correct. What's used for nausea? CBD is actually a great one for nausea. Essentially what CBD does is it's kind of like mood lighting for your brain, right? It kind of turns everything down. It helps to kind of mellow your brain, and it actually really dims that strobe light that causes seizures. So essentially when you're having a seizure, it's because your brain is firing, and it won't stop firing because it's not getting that signal back that, hey, we got the message, right? So CBD will actually help turn down that dimmer switch. So what are some potential treatments? So let's go through the list of properties, and it's actually pretty extensive. So CBD is really, it's an antiemetic, which is what reduces nausea and vomiting. I wasn't at HempFest in here in Las Vegas, unfortunately. It's an anticonvulsant, which is good for obviously reducing seizures. It's an antipsychotic and anti-inflammatory. It's an antioxidant. It actually combats neurodegenerative diseases. It's an anti-tumor, anti-cancer, obviously. And then it's an anxiolytic, which is actually what helps combat anxiety and depression. CBD. It's cannabidiol. Cannabidiol, CBD. And it's one of the 113 different compounds that are found within cannabis. So there was an actually really interesting study that was done on smoking cigarettes. If anyone out there is still smoking cigarettes and you want to stop, thank you so much, Bob. I appreciate that. So if you want to stop smoking cigarettes, and I've actually heard this anecdotally from some other people that have started to ingest CBD instead of smoking cigarettes. And they did a double-blind study. There was a double-blind study done where cigarette smokers were given an inhaler. It was a CBD inhaler. And what they were told is, when you feel the need to smoke a cigarette, take a puff. The control group, the placebo group, when they did the inhaler, they saw no change, zero change for the placebo in their cigarette smoking. The people that actually got the CBD inhaler saw their smoking go down by 40%. There was a 40% reduction in smoking cigarettes from using this CBD inhaler. So pretty crazy. Acne, as we know, we've talked about how CBD is an anti-inflammatory. There was a study that was published in the Journal of Clinical Investigation and National Institute of Health that said that CBD is actually really good for acne. It's also good for mental disorders like PTSD, anxiety, depression, psychosis. Can you treat pain from pelvic or other orthotic implants? So it's good for pain in general, right? It helps your body say, you know what, you don't need to keep sending that message. That's why it's good for anti-inflammatory. That's why it's good for pain. Because what your body is doing is going, you're in pain, you're in pain, you're in pain, you're in pain, right? And CBD says, okay, we get it. We're in pain. We get it. You can stop sending that message, right? It's the same thing with inflammatory. If you've hurt yourself and you've hurt your knee or you rolled your ankle, you're going to find that you have some inflammation. Well, it's, your brain saying, hey, send blood there, send blood there, send blood there. And CBD will say, you know what? We got enough fucking blood over here, okay? You can stop sending blood in this region, because when you get too inflamed, it actually causes more problems than it helps. So let's talk about some of the common misconceptions with CBD. CBD, a lot of people will say CBD is medical where THC is recreational. And guys, I apologize, I'm not really getting into your comments here. If I do that, I get way sidetracked. So I'm going to try to do a short Q&A at the end here. Stick with me. So some of the misconceptions. CBD is medical, THC is recreational. And as we have discussed, THC is something that it's THC specifically. One of the things it does that's really great is it inhibits the enzyme that forms the beta amyloid plaque that makes it so you have Alzheimer's and dementia. And so THC has a plethora of different things that it does. That was one of the things. But yeah, absolutely, they work together. So one of the things that I actually didn't talk about is how we were talking about the CB receptors, and essentially those orthosteric, those are that's like the lock, right? The allosteric, where the CBD locks into those CB receptors, that's essentially what makes the lock harder or easier to open, right? So I know, right? I might need more than 10 minutes. Hopefully you guys can stick with me. I only got 2 minutes left. So they work in tandem, right? The CBD, why they talk about the entourage effect is because all of these things do work together, right? THC and CBD, when you isolate CBD, it just doesn't have the effectiveness. I appreciate that. So it just doesn't have the effectiveness of whole plant cannabis, because those terpenes and those flavonoids, because there's not enough testing. Ultimately, there's not enough testing to know what works with what and how, right? So a lot of big pharma will say, well, we can't do plant-based because it's crude and it doesn't work as well. When you isolate things, that works much better. And that's just flat out not true. So CBD is legal in all 50 states. There's a lot of people that think that CBD is legal in all 50 states, and I was one of those people. And so it's a really gray area, right? And that's more not true than it is true. Let me explain. So there's federal laws preventing farming of hemp. Right now, of course, there's state laws. Oregon just came online. Colorado, Kentucky, West Virginia is working that way. There's a few states that are making it so that you can farm hemp legally in the state. It's unfortunately federally illegal still. What you can do is you can import CBD-only products that has to be extracted from seed or stock. But according to Project CBD, hemp seed does not have any CBD in it, and stock has very little. where most of that resides, where most of the cannabidiol, the CBD resides, is in the leaves and the flowers. But you can't extract, according to federal law, you can't extract CBD from the flower and the leaves. You have to extract it from the stalk and the seed. Well, the stalk and the seed are worthless. They have next to nothing. Yeah, the trichomes that are on, well, cannabis, yeah, it is pretty fucked up. But that's our federal government, not here for you. They're here for the big interest, right? So one of the things that I really thought was interesting was the FDA recently did a study, and they sent out these letters to a number of companies from California, Arizona, Florida. I believe there was one in where was it? Connecticut, I believe, as well. And they sent out letters to these guys, and they said, you need to stop making medical claims, which I understand. There's not a lot of testing, so it's hard to make medical claims, and I get that. But my concern about this whole thing was they tested all these products, right? They tested these dog CBD caps, these pills that they're selling online legally, these oils that they're selling online legally, and saying, oh, this is CBD this and CBD that. Well, guess what? They tested everything, and they found that there was a number of them that had 0 cannabinoids, 0. There was a number of them that came up with less than 0.2% cannabinoids, or less than 0.2% CBD. Only one product scored over 1% THC, and it was just slightly over 2% CBD. Sorry, not THC. So how do you know what you're getting? You don't. And that's why I'm taking all recommendations of buying, like I've said in the past that I think that some CBD is better than no CBD, and I just can't endorse buying any CBD products offline. Anything that is able to ship to your house, I think would be probably not the best substance to try. I would recommend only buying CBD in legal states, Oregon, California, Washington, Colorado, that type of thing, so that you can get them, they're tested, you know what's in them, right? So it's really kind of scary to think that there's these companies out there. Yes, so make sure if you're in Washington, those products there are lab tested, right? So you'll be able to see on there, this is the percent THC, this is the percent CBD, and then you know for sure, at least fairly accurately, what's in those pills or tinctures or oils or whatever you're consuming in one of those legal states. Anything that they're shipping from Europe apparently is just all a bunch of shit. It is best to eat CBD. Better to eat, well, it just depends on your modality, right? What do you need as a patient? If you need to eat it versus smoke it, if you're consuming CBD, it's not the same as THC, where when you consume THC, your body wants to make it water soluble. You eat it, it turns it from THC delta 9, turns it from THC into THC hydroxy 11, right? So there's THCA, which is the acid form. There's THC delta 9, which is the one when you smoke it or decarboxylate it. When you ingest it orally, it actually converts it over to THC hydroxy 11. That's why it's a different experience, because it's a different compound. It's a different drug. I don't know how that changes when you eat CBD, when you ingest it orally versus smoking it. I think that consuming CBD is going to be consuming CBD. What does CBD do for energy levels? Actually, CBD will bring you down, right? CBD is something that's going to mellow you out. So there's some people that will feel pretty tired on the CBD. That will actually make you reduce, it's actually something that can help with insomnia, people are finding. So let's real quickly get into single molecule versus whole plant CBD. So single molecule is going to be extracted in a way, or synthesized in a way, that it is CBD only, right? However, again, we've been talking about how CBD, THC, all those flavonoids, all those cannabinoids, and those terpenes, they work together through the entourage effect. Things like myrcene will help with cellular penetration, right? So that's why they say when you eat a bunch of mangoes, which is what has a bunch of myrcene in it, that you'll get higher. And that's because it helps with cell penetration. So when you're smoking that cannabis, your cells, that bioavailability, that's something you might hear every once in a while, that bioavailability is much better when you take whole plant cannabis. And they found there was a study done in Israel by the guy I forget his name off the top of my head, but the guy that actually discovered the endocannabinoid system, discovered I always want to mispronounce this, atamidide. It's the one that your body is producing naturally. It's an endocannabinoid that your body produces naturally. It's kind of like your body's form of marijuana. There's been speculation that when you get the runner's high, that it's actually very similar to being high, being like smoking marijuana high, and that's because your body's able to produce all those things naturally by itself. Greaser Girl, what's good, Greaser Girl? Thank you for joining. So when they did this test in Israel of single cell or single molecule, I should say, CBD, and they found that there was this really steep bell curve where the effectiveness of the dose, they called it a bell-shaped dose response is what they called it. Define me. Thank you for sharing on Twitter. I do appreciate that. They called it a bell-shaped dose response. And essentially what that means is there's this very tiny window where if you're using CBD only, you have to dose right in this very specific range. And anything more or anything less than that is not going to be effective. You give too much and it's just like it didn't work at all. You have enough and of course it's just like it didn't work at all. So they found that with whole plant cannabis, when you have all those other things in there, that you don't have that same bell-shaped curve for your dose response, meaning that it's effective if you take this much, then it's this effective. If you take this much, it's this effective. Now, as you start to take way more, right, it's only that much more effective if you're taking this much more. So there is a bit of a bell there, but it's definitely not the same as with single molecule CBD. So, and that's all I have for now, guys. Do you guys have any questions? Real quick, I'm way past my time. I appreciate Evan letting me go over. I'm jumping into, oh my gosh, I went way super long. I'm so sorry, you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm at Big Bear Cannabis. If you're not already, make sure you're following me on all the social media outlets, Twitter, Massroots, Instagram, Pinterest, and then go give me a follow on Facebook if you would. I would definitely appreciate it. Can you buy it in Washington and travel with it? So if you buy anything in Washington or any one of the legal states, you cannot travel with it out of state. If you bought it from a dispensary, you cannot legally travel with it across state lines. There's some caveats to that. Well, I shouldn't say there's caveats to that because it's illegal. You just can't do it. What's the M1? Damn, who's next? Evan's next, guys. We're going to pop over to Evan 206. And real quick, on Facebook, I'm doing a giveaway for an O-Pen t-shirt and an O-Pen battery. There's 3 people that have entered. One of them is me. So there's really 2 people that entered because I'm not going to give myself a t-shirt. So go over to Facebook, click the giveaways tab, and go and enter to win a t-shirt there. If you're following me, if you're not, well, if you got to be following me. So if you're already following me, you can click that link and then just be entered to win. And if you aren't following me, then make sure you click that link, follow me, and you'll be entered to win a t-shirt and an O-Pen battery. Much love to you guys. I'm at Big Bear Cannabis. An O-Pen battery, O-Pen, it's like O-Pen, O-P-E-N, but there's a little point, so it's O-Pen. And then that's, O-Pen is a manufacturer of those little cartridges, and then they make the batteries, and you screw the cartridges on, and then you puff on the cartridge. O-Pen, yep, there it is. Do you watch? Oh, I got a phone call, so I have to watch it replays. I love it. Thank you so much, you guys. I'm at Big Bear Cannabis, and I'm out.